everyone and welcome back to another PvP guide. I am Ajol and today we are going to discuss Restoration Druid in Shadowlands. We are going to cover talents, PvP talents, best legendary, best covenant, soul binds, conduits and stat priority. I will try to keep this as short as possible, therefore I won't be talking about all the options. I will just talk about what works best for me and what I observed other top players are opting for. So let's not waste any more time and jump right into it. For talents, your default pick should look like this: Cenarian Ward, Wild Charge, Guardian Affinity, Mighty Bash, Soul of the Forest, Overgrowth and Germination. However, there are a few talents that you always lock in and some other talents you may opt to change them. Tier 15 Cenarian Ward, you always pick this. It's by far the best talent in this tier. For tier 25, you have to choose between Wild Charge and Renewal. Only pick Renewal if you're struggling to survive. For tier 30, your choice is between Guardian Affinity, Feral Affinity and Balance Affinity, but your most obvious choices are Guardian Affinity when mostly playing with a melee and you don't need the extra stuns and pressure. If you need extra stuns and more pressure, you should be playing Feral Affinity. If you're comfortable surviving the enemy, go for that. For tier 35, your obvious choice is Mighty Bash. However, if your team has enough stuns, you can always opt for Mass Entanglement. If you're lacking roots, this is a very good choice, especially if you couple it with the Deep Roots PvP talent. We'll cover that later. For tier 40, Soul of the Forest should be your default pick. However, versus double DPS in 2v2, Incarnation Tree of Life is literally a lifesaver. For tier 45, always lock in Overgrowth. There are a lot of situations where you'll need all your HOTS on certain targets and this is priceless. As for tier 50, the most obvious choice is Germination. However, I've seen some players sometimes play with Flourish and even with Photosynthesis, but your default pick should be Germination, especially if you're Necrolord. Moving on to PvP talents. Always pick Thorns against meleeers. It does a lot of damage. It also snares the target that's hitting Thorns. Reactive Resin, again another solid pick against meleeers. You should always pick this as it extends the duration of your rejuvenation. If you're playing with Germination, both of them will be increased. It's a very solid pick. You can and you should pick Focused Growth when you know you're gonna spam a lot more healing or when you're facing Purge teams, as this reduces the mana cost of your Life Bloom, and if someone's spamming Purge, you should be spamming Life Bloom as it will continuously proc the final bloom. Deep Roots can be very strong against melee comps as well, as this will increase the damage required to break the entangling roots. Keep in mind that it also works with Mass Entanglement. So again, if you're playing with a class that also brings at least one stun, you can opt to pick this instead of Mighty Bash. For example, if you're playing Feral Affinity, Mass Entanglement and Deep Roots, this is amazing for peeling and making other meleeers' life a nightmare. Other PvP talents worth mentioning are High Winds. However, I feel like this is somewhat lackluster as you won't be always able to reliably land cyclones. Master Shapeshifter got nerfed too much, so I almost never pick it anymore. Entangling Bark, if you feel you're still struggling against certain meleeers, the extra root effect is welcome. And of course Mark of the Wild for when there are no Purge teams, and for example you're playing against Holy Paladin balance, nobody can dispel. Mark of the Wild is gonna help a lot against AoE and damage over time effects. Moving on to legendary, I think hands down Verdant Infusion is the best legendary you get on your Resto Druid. Swiftman no longer consumes a heal over time effect, which is huge, and extends the duration of your heal over time effects on the target by 8 seconds. This is so overpowered for Resto Druid, as it not only it saves mana by not consuming a rejuvenation, a regrowth, or a wild growth, so it saves a lot of mana by not consuming the heal effect, but also when you stack all of your heal over time effects on a target, it also extends the effects by 8 seconds. This includes Adaptive Swarm and Cenarian Ward, which together are very strong, not to mention Adaptive Swarm increases the potency of all your heal over time effects, which scales really nice with your mastery and so on. This is basically a build enabler for Resto Druid. I really haven't tested all the other legendaries, but once I tested this one, I felt I can't play without it anymore. So it's that good. With this legendary, Resto Druid's healing throughput is insane. Once your target is fully hotted and you swift mend, the target is nearly impossible to get killed. Even in deep dampening, I've been able to keep my targets alive if I don't get greedy, or if I don't get in a bad position, or I don't get CC'd. For Covenant, in my opinion, Necrolord is the best choice for Resto Druid, mostly because of Adaptive Swarm. I've seen some Resto Druids going for Night Fae for the Convoke and for the Soul Shape, but I feel if you're playing with Night Fae, your healing output might be a lot lower than Necrolord Resto Druid. The default healing increase of Adaptive Swarm is 20%, but I'm also playing the Conduit that increases that healing effect by another 8%. Not to mention, Adaptive Swarm is also considered a heal over time effect, which contributes to your mastery healing. So the more healing over time effects you have on a target, the more healing you'll be able to dish out. And with that being said, let's go through all of my Soulbinds and Conduits. I only play with Plague Divisor Marileth. The others just don't play the others, so just don't. So Volatile Solvent irrelevant. Evolved Swarm. Adaptive Swarm increases periodic effects by an additional 8.4%. Use Frictionless Coating. When reduced below 50% health, Use courses over you, granting you a shield for 15% of your maximum health for 10 seconds. May only occur once per 30 seconds. This is huge. Whenever you get swapped to in a stun, you might still die with the current insane burst in the game, but this will save you a lot of times, especially if you couple it with the next Endurance Conduit, Well-Honed Instincts. When you fall below 40% health, you cast Frenzied Regeneration up to once every 69 seconds. So you can see you have built-in passive survival tricks. Even if you're playing Feral Affinity, this Conduit still works, and you should always pick this one. And you basically have 2 extra layers of defense if you get caught up in a bad position or in a stun. It's Use Frictionless Coating, which gives you an Absorb. Then you also get healed by Frenzy Regen. It's not amazing, but it helps a lot. Next tier is irrelevant. Moving on to the next potency conduit, Floral Recycling. Yes, please get this as soon as possible. These 3 are mandatory. Evolved Swarm, Well-Honed Instincts, and Floral Recycling. Swift Mend's healing is increased by 52% of the consumed heal over time effect. I guess this is random, but I've seen Swift Mend heal for 10-12k non-crit, and I've seen 20k critical heals with this. It's just insane. Remember that Swift Mend has a 15-second cooldown only. The next tier is purely your choice. Innate Resolve, Regrowth and Frenzy Regen healing is increased by 15.6% on yourself. Pick this if you want to be more tanky. However, since I'm mostly playing with Feral Affinity and I have a 15% 15% increased move speed. This finesse conduit is just insane. For 3.9 seconds after leaving cat form or travel form, you retain up to 40% movement speed. This is huge, as when you're kiting, let's say you're in travel form, you're exiting travel form, throwing 2 hots, still maintain that move speed, go back to travel form, you throw another hot, you go to bear form, you keep the move speed, go back to travel form or cat form, and so on. This is insane. This is insane. If you're relying on mobility and repositioning and playing safe, I would say this is probably stronger and a safer pick than the innate resolve, but in the end it's your choice. Test either of them. I think like these are very strong, both of them, but in the end it's your choice. And as for the last one, ultimate form, while channeling fleshcraft you are immune to crowd control and you regenerate 2% health every 1 second. If you finish the full channel, you gain 4 seconds of crowd control immunity, during which you regenerate 2% health every 1 second. This can be very strong, especially in moments where you see a CC incoming, or you think you're gonna get CC'd and you can't avoid it in any other way, you can't kite away from it. This can be insane. You can immune cyclones, blinds, stuns, pretty much anything you can think of. Moving on to stat priority, versatility is obviously your rank 1 priority for any class in PvP at the moment. However, after versatility you will want to stack as much haste as possible. I would say around 15 to 20% if you are able to get there. Enchant for haste if you can, gem for haste if you can. Unfortunately, most of the items I got from chest and so on are mastery. Mastery scales in a weird way right now. You can see I have 325 mastery on my gear, which only gives me 4.64% increased healing for each heal over time effect. It's so low. Haste will help you with global cooldown, will help you with energy regen in cat form, will help you with casts, faster cyclones, faster regrowths, and so on. Stay away from crit. As much as possible, stay away from crit. Some of you also asked me how am I healing, what's my spell priority in PvP situations. I wouldn't say there is a specific rotation. However, there are some priorities, and let's say there's an emergency situation where you need to heal very fast and you need to apply as many hots as possible. This is how I do it. Keep in mind that right now the trinket set bonus is not applied as I'm not in a PvP situation. So let's go right into it. So we apply rejuvenation with overgrowth, with adaptive swarm, with Cenarian ward, with swift mend, into instant regrowth, which is a 44.6k non-critical. However, I've seen regrowth crit in arena for 120k, my most recent crit. Can do this like once a minute. It's impossible to get killed through this. Remember that adaptive swarm and Cenarian ward both get increased by 8 seconds after you swift mend. So all of your heal over time effects will get an increased duration unless the target is being purge spammed. That's no real actual way they die. I think we pretty much covered everything for Restoration Druid in PvP. I hope you enjoyed this guide. If you have any questions or you would like to add certain things that I missed, please use the commentary section below. Until next time, I wish you all a PvP day. Thank you for watching and bye bye.